Hey there, I have a question today from Ray. She sent in for AskAmy. It's a very short and simple one. Ray says, why is my thinking so negative compared to others? My husband is so positive and logical. So, why is my thinking so negative compared to others? Thought content is a really interesting thing. I mean, I don't think anyone knows. There's no perfect formula for why we think certain things and why other people think the things they think and why some things would never occur to us and why they do occur to other people. There's no clean, predictable kind of formula for that. What we do sort of know is that, or how it feels to me anyway, like this very vague sense of it is it's very mechanical. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Like I think often of it's like if you go to your kitchen right now. Now you and your husband share a kitchen, Ray, so this isn't a great metaphor for you. But if you go to your kitchen and I go to my kitchen and everyone listening goes to their kitchen and we're all to make a meal from whatever we have there, we're gonna find the ingredients that we have, right? And we're gonna each make a meal, and it's gonna be a really, really different meal. And the meal that each of us makes is gonna be based on a lot of things. It's gonna be based on first, the ingredients that are in our like what is right there, accessible, available to use for each of us. Very different things that show up in each of our kitchens. Beyond that, though, like why we choose to go in one direction with our meal versus another direction in our meal, that's just down to something that's fresh and new and that shows up and moves through us in a moment that we don't have any say over. Like we don't know where that comes from, right? It's such a mystery. So, and then there's so much even bigger beyond that. Like there's going to be new thought that shows up. There's going to be things you're going to make something and then maybe taste it and see that it needs something else and it's going to go in a slightly different direction from there. So there's so much stuff that comes up in that scenario that would come up in that scenario to lead us into whatever meal we have to go quickly make. And I think it's kind of like that in terms of the what that we think about. So we all think in the same way. We all have ingredients, we all have kitchens, we can all go throw something together and make some kind of meal from it. That's universal, and not really, but you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the universal part. That's just part of being human. But what's going to come out is totally different. And same with our thinking. So you and your husband both think, we all think in a very similar way. It's just that end result. It's just the stuff, just the what that comes out. So when you go to your kitchen, Ray, and you have to find all these ingredients and you're thinking and you're testing and you're like, no, these don't go together. And you're Googling substitutions and you're doing all that. That's what everybody, if we all had this assignment, that's what we'd all be doing. So that's kind of how all of our process of thought, like that we all think and how that works is universal. It's the same. And then you'd have 7 billion different dishes that come out of 7 billion different kitchens, right? So so same here. So you and your husband are actually so much more similar. We all are than you are different. But what happens is that the very last piece of that big long puzzle, the very end result, the dish that you present and say, here's what came out of my kitchen, is different for you in general than it is for him. But I really want you to kind of see, well, that's just this last piece, it's just the very end result. It doesn't, it ignore, if we only look there, it ignores the fact that everything you did up until the point to where you had a dish to present was the same as it is for everyone. So I think when it comes to the what of our thinking, the content of our thinking, there's all kinds of mechanical, habitual, old stuff going on. There's memories, there's mood, there's whatever's active within you. There is stuff that long ago, a thought that showed up that had a lot of emotion attached, or it got a lot of attention paid to it by you, or maybe by someone else, or it felt like a familiar thought, or it felt like a thought that someone in your family might think, or whatever. And all of that kind of comes together and gives us whatever content, habits we have. But what I think is so important is rather than trying to figure out where the content of our thinking comes from and why mine's so negative and his is so positive and all of that, is to see, wow, all I know about that is it makes sense on some level. It's like running to a kitchen, grabbing what you have and spitting something out. That meal makes perfect sense on some level, given what you had there. We don't need to dissect it. We can't dissect it and figure it out at a deeper level than that. But it's just the output of what's in there, what's active, what's fresh, what's not. And then you get something spit out of you. What I think is a far more important and interesting question for you to ask Ray, because I know what's behind this isn't just an intellectual curiosity about where the content of our thinking comes from. What's behind this question is, why am I so unhappy and he's not? Why is my head full of all this negative stuff and his is full of all of this positive stuff? But to see more about that, you want to ask a different question. The question there might be something like, what does my husband see about thought that I don't see? Or how does my husband interact with his thinking? What does he make of thought that's different from what I make of my experience? That's an interesting question. And that's a question that they're all interesting questions. I love thinking about this stuff and talking about it, but that's a question that has some leverage built in, that if you can ask that question and look in that direction, that's likely to change your experience and help you feel a whole lot better. The first question, why am I so negative and he's so positive? That's not likely to get you anywhere, except for maybe just interested and fascinated about a bunch of mystery, about a bunch of stuff that's really kind of a mystery. So Ray, look less at that end result. It's backwards. It's different than it seems. It's different than how we've been conditioned. It's not about the plate that you present to the judges at the end and say, here's what I create. Here's the thing I created from out of my kitchen. It's kind of reversing all that. And they're saying, I don't really care what you created. Let's look at how all this creation's happening. And what do you understand about putting ingredients together? Like, what do you understand about that whole universal process? So again, in your terms, back to your question, what does he or other people, how are they with their thinking? Do they take it all as seriously as I do? Do they consult their thinking for answers? Do they see something I don't see? Like, I would love to see you have that conversation with him. And it's not an easy conversation to have, and I don't mean I'm not saying it's a hard conversation, but for most people, not me, but most normal people, it's a weird conversation. It's not something we're used to talking about, like, well, what do you think when a thought pops in your head? What do you make of it? And who do you think you are beyond all that stuff? I'm guessing most normal people don't talk about that, but I think it'd be amazing for you to have that conversation with him or with anyone who you think is happier and more positive and who you would like to have more of their type of experience in your life. Because, if it's just a question of being curious about that and exploring it and just kind of studying them, nothing's wrong with you, nothing's perfect about them that they figured out that you didn't, but just study them a little bit. And again, not about the content so much, but about what they see about the content, because that's what's really going to have a ton of potential to bring you some change, Ray. So thanks so much for your question. I hope it's helpful to others. I hope you're all doing well, staying healthy and safe, and I will see you back here next Monday. Have a great week.